Welcome to another Friday featured business brought to you by James Moffat, myself, and Visibility Impact. And we're going to have an interview with our 80th guest, 𝗘𝗔𝗧𝗪𝗧. And Peter is here on 434. So we're going to learn all about Peter, his background. And I've got the kids trying to break in the door behind me. Right, so do excuse me. And before we get going, we're going to have a song from Emily. Unfortunately, she can't make it today. So we're going to listen to one of her recordings. So I'm just going to switch the screen and we're going to hear Emily. So Peter, welcome and enjoy the ride. So and a big thank you to all of our regulars who are normally in the audience. So let me just share my screen and get the song going, and I'll deal with my son whilst we're doing that. So let me just get that ready. Okay, you should see my screen now.
Daddy, where's mommy?
Thank you. Emily. So,
amazing voice.
Oh, she is. I mean, she writes her own songs as well. She plays the guitar and the piano, and yeah, she does a lot of cover work as well, and works with children and helps them make creative things like Harry Potter days and whatever. And she's originally from the UK and lives in Lausanne in Switzerland.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Right. So we normally kick off with her. Unfortunately, she can't be here live. So she normally shares a recording then. So Peter, now I'm going to put the spotlight on you.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for having me.
Great pleasure. So I know we talked a bit earlier before we started. So I've basically been following you for the last year or so. I found you absolutely fantastic. I've learned a lot, and it's also kind of been a reassurance to some of the things that I knew that you've talked about. So before we go there, we want to know who Peter is. So as we said, we're not going to share the screen, the picture of you. Oh, Laszlo's probably going to ask that question, aren't you?
Yeah, that's just sorry for any particular reason why we don't see him on screen. So
maybe Peter, you can answer that.
Yeah, so the reason is twofold. One of them is that I deal with sensitive subjects and I don't want to get in trouble like many of my colleagues did in the past. And the second reason is that I have experience with being famous and being recognized, and I don't want to do it again.
Is that okay, Laszlo?
That's it. Thank you.
Right.
There we go.
Okay, so anyway, we're not interested in what you look like anyway. We're interested in the stories that you're going to share with us.
Right.
So Peter, let's just take you on a journey. So you are our 80th guest, so congratulations on that. 80 is a significant number for you as well.
Yes, I was born in 1980.
Right, wow. So nothing is coincidental.
No, never.
Numbers actually mean a lot once you understand basically behind the number, what it actually stands for. So Peter, tell us a bit about, well, first of all, where are you now and where are you originally from?
So I'm now in UK, in Manchester, but I'm from Eastern Europe. And I was born in Eastern Europe. I grew up in Western Europe. And on my way to America, I had a stopover in England, and I've been here for 17 years. And that's my story pretty much. I became British in the process somehow. I don't know how. Sorry, I have a British passport. I'm not British. I don't think I'll ever be British. But yeah, it's just very complicated.
So you never actually got to America?
Well, I did. It's just that it turned out it was too far. I love spending time in America. Still, I have almost all of my friends in America. But no, England is closer to home and it's also safer. But I miss America. I really like that place.
So where in America did you go?
Fort Lauderdale. That's where my family was.
Oh, nice. You have family?
What's that? Sorry.
I've been
there.
Yeah, it's Florida. Florida is amazing. I mean, it's strange, but it's a great place, especially for someone like me who's a lizard. I absolutely love the sun. I just love staying in the sun all the time. And England's a bit of a bummer for me because it's rainy, especially in Manchester. Manchester is very rainy. So
from which country you come? You said Eastern Europe.
I can tell you this after the
after the recording.
Yeah.
Just turn off the recording to have a Okay.
So Boyan's been at Fort Lauderdale because he was at Cape Canaveral, weren't he?
Yeah, yes, that's not far.
And
but actually, I had but it's Peter's show now.
Yeah, because Boyan dreamt of being an astronaut.
Oh, really?
Which is actually good with this song, "Fly Me to the Moon." Right?
What a good.
But he never did get. Well, he never did get in his physical form to the moon, but I bet he's been there.
Yeah, that's probably impossible too, but that's a different story.
Okay, so why Manchester?
Well, I actually moved to Liverpool. In 2005, I moved to Liverpool. Out of all the places, somehow I ended up in Liverpool. We didn't want to, back then, me and my brother, because we were moving, we didn't want to go to London because it was too crowded at that time. But somehow we picked Liverpool. It was a good, I don't know. It was a good, yeah, it's just a random place. And it turned out to be very, very interesting, but also very difficult because back then Liverpool was quite, it's still not the richest place in England. It's much better than what it used to be, but back then, job opportunities, everything there wasn't much of it. So we decided to move to the next closest place that was more lively, and that was Manchester. Manchester is the second biggest city in England. It's quite nice. It's not bad, but it's a bit too far for me. It's too up north, and it's very specific. It's a strange place with very specific people, but it's much better than London, definitely.
So why didn't you pick like Cornwall or something where it'd be warmer and sunny?
It's not really that much sunnier. I mean, it is a little bit, but once we settled here and once, I I have a son here who goes to school. I cannot get out of here. The moment I started 434, I realized that I'm on a new path, and I decided that it's time for me to do something with my life. But unfortunately, my family is my anchor. And as always, there is a reason why I'm supposed to be here, so I'm staying here for now. But we're already planning on moving somewhere else. We just don't know when and how. As you said, maybe it's going to be south of Dover or somewhere similar
Okay.
to that.
So let's just go back a little bit. So you were growing up in Eastern Europe, and did you? I mean, are your parents still there? Did you move? Well, you mentioned your brother, so
Part of my family is there. Part of my family is in Western, actually in Germany. So I can reveal that my mom lives in Germany. So it's a bit of a complicated. Part of my family lives in South Africa. As I said, some of my family lives in Florida. So it's quite complicated.
But neither of your parents are from the UK.
No. It's just me and my family. So
okay,
it's
and
interesting. Yeah.
You left with your brother to go there,
and my girlfriend at that time, who's my wife now.
All right. So I was just going to ask that. I mean, is she British or something? But
no, she's not.
But I guess because you've been there for so long. I mean, you mentioned you both have, the family have British passports now.
Yeah, we're getting close to being here for half of our lives now. So it was supposed to be a stopover. We were on our way to America, and somehow we ended up here being permanent.
But there's no regrets that you didn't go to America?
You cannot regret something that never happened, because I have no idea what life in America would be like. From what I know now, when I speak to my friends, America is a nice place for someone who has the money, someone who's rich. If you're an average person, America is a nightmare. I mean, if you look at the number of days you get, you don't get annual leave. Forget that. It's, the insurance and everything. It's crazy. When I compare everything, when I started working with Americans and I started comparing their life to my life, I mean, these people work sometimes 12 hours a day to have what I have here, working only 6 to 8 hours a day.
I mean, exactly. And a holiday isn't something that they naturally give you.
No, of course.
And then if you take it, then you look
frowned upon.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's a difficult country. It's a very difficult country. It's a very dog-eat-dog type of environment. Very, very difficult for me. And also, I found English people to be very nice in a way. They're very civilized. Yeah, that's too. But they're very civilized. They don't intrude on your life. They leave you alone to your own devices. You do whatever you want. Europe is very intrusive. They always want to be in your life. They always want to tell you what they think, what you should do. America is also like that. But England is they're very peaceful.
I think Scottish people are really wonderful.
Yeah. Irish and Scottish are a bit different.
Yeah. Particularly
they don't have anything common with England and Scotland.
Particularly
from Edinburgh.
Maybe.
I'm talking about myself, you see.
Yeah, you could always hear these things. Like, even people in Liverpool, they're called Scousers, and they have different neighborhoods, and people from different neighborhoods have different
where's
ideas.
Your accent? So where's your accent?
That's what they say usually, because they speak like that. They speak Scouse. It's a very different language, and you can tell that those who grew up in, for example, in Kensington, which is part of Liverpool, Toxteth, for example, is very different to the other part of Liverpool, and they know each other by their accents. They know how old they are because of the accent. It's a very strange thing, and it's only in England where people actually recognize themselves because of the accent. And it's a tiny country; it's the size of a post stamp. You look at America.
You don't have an accent.
Not a British one. I never learned to speak British. I used to speak Scouse for a moment when I lived there.
Yeah, but so how did you become kind of more neutral in your language?
When I learned English, all my teachers were American, and I was actually, I was growing up with American, environment, so it was very, very different for me. And I came here and I started speaking Scouse, and when I moved to Manchester, they hated me. They really didn't like my Scouse accent. So I was like, every time I move, they're gonna hate me for my local accent. I was like, screw it. I'm just gonna stick to my natural American accent. And then it's not fully American, but it's more American than it is British.
Yeah, so you don't have a Mancunian accent either.
Not at all. No, I don't even recognize it. It's only when I hear that it sounds familiar that I know it's Mancunian. But
So
no, no,
do you follow football?
no, absolutely not a part
Because
of.
in Manchester, big rivalry there with Manchester City and United.
Well, they tried to get me on board for Liverpool when I lived for Liverpool City, but I was like, nah, not a big fan. And then I moved to Manchester. Turns out there are two of them. Like, oh, I'm not doing that. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. So is your brother still in the UK, or did he go elsewhere?
No, he actually moved to Malta at some point, and then he decided it's too hot, and he moved back home to Eastern Europe.
All right, okay then. So you mentioned family, so you've got children.
Yes, I have one son.
All right. And roughly how old is he now?
He's almost 8.
Ah, okay. So my son that burst in here, he's 9.
Oh, the same age. Yeah, it's the same
Mine
age.
is 8, becoming 9 in July. So
Oh, right.
Right. And then I have 2 twins as well. So, oh, one set of twins. I wouldn't say 2 twins. That would be 4, wouldn't it? Twins, a boy and a girl. They're 6.
Oh, that's a handful.
Oh, it is, yeah, but a marvelous handful. I love it.
Oh,
Well,
right.
not all the time, but, but anyway. So, growing up as a child, then what were your kind of interests and hobbies and things that you enjoyed doing?
You know what? When I look back at it, it feels like it was a bit random, but actually, all of it connects to what I'm doing now because I got interested in music production and video producing when I was maybe 11 or 12. So it was back in the early 90s, and my first computer was Commodore 64. You couldn't do much on it back then, but I was already producing music on it, and I quickly became a DJ actually, and I started organizing electronic music events in my area, and I was one of the first one who was organizing these big parties here, and I was quite successful for some time. And then I started my own record label when I grew up. So I was a DJ and music producer and promoter for quite a long time, almost 15 years. And then I switched to video production.
But you don't. Are you musical? I mean, did you
Oh
sing
yeah,
around? Yeah.
absolutely. I'm playing guitar, playing piano. I'm still composing. I actually want to, after 434, well, after, at some point, I want to move to composing music again because I love that. So
Oh.
I'm just waiting to have more time.
Yeah, because we've had on the show many different guests. We had a guest from India that plays the sitar. So that was interesting. When we've got Emily that plays every week, I mean, the guitar and the piano and sings and writes her own music. So, I mean, there is a musical bunch of people here as well.
Yeah, yeah.
We
I
get
was.
together.
Yeah, that's why I said she had a beautiful voice because I could immediately tell that she's like genuine singer, and her octave. I mean, she can go really high. That's really impressive.
I think she can get higher than that as well.
It's amazing. I can tell like she is really good at it. She's not someone who will be on in a local pub. She would be on X Factor probably, but she's really good.
Yeah, she'll be happy to hear that. So I'll tell her that when I share the recording with her. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's just a quick question before I forget. I mean, when you record your own stuff for 434, do you use a synthesizer or something for your voice?
No, for my voice, I don't do anything. I don't sing. I'm composing electronic music. That's all I do.
Oh, but
I love.
you don't do anything there because sometimes it sounds like your voice can be kind of more electronic rather than natural.
Yeah, that's really strange. I get that a lot for some reason. People say a lot of strange things about my voice that I don't understand. I think it comes down to personal, very subjective perception of what I sound like. But no, I don't. It's just my. I actually record it on my old Samsung phone. It's just a
Really?
small. Yeah, yeah. I'm very minimalistic in a way. You were talking about this before we started recording, but I'm like that too. I really don't use much. I use a really old 7-year-old laptop that I've been using ever since I started 434, and I'm a big fan of minimalistic usage of devices and equipment, especially that I've been a music producer for almost 3 decades now, and I know how to take advantage of very simple equipment that sounds like it's professional.
Yeah, I hear Laszlo every time you speak, it sounds very nice. I mean, whatever headset or whatever you're using is great. Is it which one do you use?
Which headset?
Oh, I mean, yeah, because this has
It's
got a good sound.
Plantronics. What is it? Plantronics something.
Oh, because you know the story behind Plantronics.
No.
They were supposed to be the first ones that were used on the space mission to the moon.
Okay.
Supposed to be, right?
Okay.
If there was
It's
one.
a very simple, easy to use thing.
No, because it sounds good.
Yeah.
Boyan's going to test his now. He's disappeared. But anyway, so I just thought you used something because the sound was excellent and just quite unique. So anyway, growing up as a kid.
Bayan, please behave.
Oh, yeah, that's better. Huh? Yeah, that was a good improvement there. Yeah, that's an improvement. Can't hear you. Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
You are on mute.
Yes, read my lips. I wanted to
Read
say.
your lips.
So I said that this is an idea for Peter to show up, maybe, because 3 years ago they wouldn't let me in a bank. They will shoot me if I go like this. But now, without this, they don't let me in.
Oh, how times have changed, right?
Exactly.
Corona.
But anyway, we digress. So let's get back. So Peter, tell us a bit more about kind of your experience growing up, because there was I think Julia had to shoot off, right? She just said a messenger. So, but she can catch up on the recording. So Peter, with your kind of story growing up. So, I mean, I read through kind of your notes, so I know, but I want you to kind of share the story. So tell us a bit more about your story in the way that, before we get into 434, kind of what was any turning point, or growing up as a kid, anything that made you feel that there was something different?
Yeah, so now that I look back at my childhood and my life, it feels like it's somebody else's life. It doesn't feel like I'm here as a result of that life, because I grew up in a communist country, in a very poor family, and we basically had nothing, but it was an incredible experience. The first 10 years of my life was amazing, the best childhood ever. I loved it. And I'm a little bit of a fan of theoretical socialism and communism, because I know it doesn't work. It's an absolute disaster the way they did it with Soviet Union and everything. But we were really happy back then. It was very, very strange. The human connection back then was really strong. So I miss it. It has absolutely defined the rest of my life, because I'm striving to get back to that place. It doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately. It's just something that I know that we could create for ourselves here on Earth, because it was artificially supported by credit and debt from Western world, but Soviet Union and all these satellite countries were really interesting to see as an experiment, social experiment. So for me, it was great. And then the moment the Berlin Wall fell in 1989, my mom somewhat left us. She basically moved, and that was the end of my childhood, and it became a struggle. The next 10 years was a struggle, but halfway through it, somehow it became the most amazing 4 years of my life. So when I went to high school, it was later explained to me by these entities and the psychedelic insight. They told me that was the most free period of my time and most amazing time for me. That's why I remember it so vividly, and that's why I always want to go back to it. But that was the moment when I realized something's wrong with me, in a way that I'm not really from here. Something doesn't jive, and that's when I started looking for answers, and that continued through my
So
20s.
just holding you there, was it just you in the family that felt like that, or I mean,
Yeah.
you're
I'm the black sheep. I'm absolutely not from. I understand my place now. I know everything. I know why I'm here and why I'm different. and it's me who's taking care of them, not the other way around.
Okay.
But
with
back
your
then,
sorry to interrupt. I mean, with your parents and your brother, is your brother older or younger than you?
younger. But when I was 12, I started raising my father. I basically started telling him how life works. Yeah, they both very immature souls, both him and my mom. They're very at early stages of spiritual development, not only in earthly understanding. Their souls are very young. They're quite fresh, so they haven't been here for a long time. I don't know whether it's me coming here over and over again and being very advanced within our soul group, which consists of my environment and people in my life, or whether I'm from higher densities or higher dimensions where I came down to lower density to teach others. Given the fact that I'm actually giving people knowledge, and it's tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people who are learning from it, I would be willing to accept the second option, but I don't want my ego to grow too much when I think about that, because it's an interesting position to be in when you're teaching hundreds of thousands of people, but at the same time it's serious responsibility because it distracts you from your personal path and it takes away from your human experience, right? So quickly in my childhood I realized that something's not right here, that it shouldn't be that you're connecting with your grandmother on a level where you're telling her how everything should be. And that was an awakening for me. So in the next 10 years, I tried to find an answer in my 20s. And I discovered people like 𝗦𝗘𝗔𝗢𝗏 and so on. And I started getting some answers.
Sorry again. How did that, I mean, did you wake up one morning and just feel that you had the answers? How did it come about? I mean,
it's an organic, yeah.
I mean, you mentioned like here that you went through some depression. Was that when you were a child?
Yeah. So it all started when my mom left. She basically she doesn't know this, but she's very selfish and she values how she feels is more important to her than everything else. And it's only when my son was born, when I realized it, when I became a parent, I could finally understand her. And it's just who she is. She gave me the experience that I signed up for probably myself before I came here, and it's growing up without a mother, right? And I had to grow up myself as a result of that. So that made me realize that I have to rely on myself, and I started paying attention to who can help me with this. And it turned out there was nobody there. And I quickly realized this society is just a bunch of kids in grown-up bodies. And I realized that I'm actually smarter than them. Quickly, I realized that what I do, what I say makes more sense than what all of them combined come up with. And that was the moment when I started trusting more myself than them. And I started paying more attention to my intuition, my higher self.
So how did that affect school? Because I mean, at school, you could probably see through the education and what you believed was kind of right or wrong. And why am I bothering learning this when I don't see the significance or whatever? I mean, how was the schooling?
I put 2 of my teachers in a mental asylum. It's probably a coincidence. I'm not joking. It's a coincidence, but they had nervous breakdown with me because I would use logic, and logic would absolutely destroy them. That it's still the case. People really don't like logic because it forces you to re-examine your beliefs, and they're usually religions. They're not really beliefs. They're religious beliefs. You believe in something only because you want to believe. It's not based in logic or nothing rational. Is just how you feel. That's what you believe in. And the last 2 years were a perfect example of that. So I quickly learned that school is not really an important element of my life, and I quickly realized that I just need to pass every year. I just need to get a certain amount of points or whatever the system wants me to do, and I just concentrated on that, and I moved on to doing my own stuff. And that's
so when you left school, did you go into kind of further education at universities or anything?
Yes, I actually graduated in, out of all things, English and Japanese linguistics with elements of business. And I stopped. I just said school is pointless. I'm not going to do. I mean, it was very useful because I learned the things like descriptive grammar when it comes to English. I learned what languages are about, and I discovered a few very important things. But
So a big difference between kind of Japanese and English then.
Oh, a huge difference. Japanese is a very interesting language. I was on my way actually to move to Japan, but some of my friends did it, and I decided it's not for me. It was actually quite an unpleasant experience when I went there, and I thought I'm not gonna do this. So I stayed in here.
So Manchester had your corner.
Well, no, it's just phonetically, it's Manchester. It's very similar. They have their own alphabet that is used for foreign words. It's called kanji. What am I saying? Katakana. Hello?
All right. Yeah. No, you're still there. No, I was just seeing the screen was flickering there. So, I mean, further on, did you take anything for the depression, or how did you get over the depression?
Okay, so going back to depression, I grew up in a very difficult environment. It was a very poor and very violent place I lived in. It was very aggressive, filled with unemployed people and alcoholics. The unemployment rate was something close to 40% back then, because it was a coal mine city, and one of the biggest ones. And they shut it down. They shut down the whole infrastructure, so everybody became unemployed. And yeah, it was homelessness and violence and just criminals. People were turning into criminals. And yeah, I had to stay there for 10 years, and it was tough because it's not who I am. That's why I feel so good here in England, because English people are very civilized, they're very peaceful, they're not aggressive as Europeans are. So not only was this part of the world that I grew up in tormented by World War II, but also they went through socialism and then the complete decomposing of social structure and the finances and everything. It was just a mess. So I had to get out of there, and once I did, I realized what a mess I was. And at some point, I started realizing that all of this created a very negative mindset in me. I was aggressive.
What age were you then?
I was 25 when I moved to England. That was the moment where when English people held a mirror to me and they said, look at yourself, you're like an animal. And it was English people who told me that, because I could see the difference between their mindset and my mindset and my behavior. I was very aggressive. I was very angry. I was very negative. And I was like, oh, wait, something's wrong. And then I started seeing that things are going the wrong direction. I started looking for answers. But of course, you know that modern medicine, modern psychology doesn't really offer many answers. It doesn't really offer you anything of substance that can help you to deal with this. There are things that I'm not meant.
But at the time, I mean, you had a girlfriend you mentioned because you came with her.
Yeah.
So, I mean, she felt similarly to you in, I don't want to be here anymore and let's go somewhere else.
Yeah, that was basically, you always, the reason is because you come here in groups. You don't come to Earth on your own. You come here with a group of people who are with you, who are very similar to you at a similar level of development. So my brother, my girlfriend, and a few of my other friends, it feels like we've known each other for a long time, and we had the same views on what's happening. It's normal. It's just normal that you decide that it's not the right place for you and you want to go somewhere. So that's what we did, and that was the right decision. It was a very smart decision, and I had a chance to start working on myself and heal. Things got really difficult when my son was born, and that turned into just clinical depression. Like, I was waking up thinking, why am I even getting out of bed? I got myself in the middle of a huge corporate world career that I was absolutely hating. I was working for the biggest corporation in the world as a recruiter. So I knew every company from the inside. I was disgusted by what their values are, what they represent. I was disgusted with myself. And it all led me to a place in 2015 where I decided I have to do something or it's going to end badly. And I decided to try ayahuasca. And I watched Joe Rogan talk to one of these ex-CNN anchors. Her name was Amber Lyon, and they discussed how ayahuasca and psychedelics and mushrooms, how they can cure depression. And I said, okay, let's give it a shot. I boiled my own ayahuasca, and luckily it didn't work. Luckily, I'm saying luckily because I can tell that I drank too much, but it didn't work. So coincidentally, I had access to mushrooms after a few days, and I took mushrooms, and I cured my depression in a matter of 2 hours. But not only that, suddenly I realized that I'm being contacted by some strange alien entities who talk to me, and that was the beginning of 434.
And how long ago was that?
That was 7 years ago, 2015.
Right. And that has changed your life.
Absolutely. It gave me second life, actually, second chance in life.
And has it affected your relationship with your wife and child now?
Well, you need to understand that once you get a manual to your life by an extraterrestrial entity, everything changes, because suddenly you realize that you were blindfolded. You were a blind kid in the middle of a forest, and suddenly you have access to metaphysical Google, where you can type in any question and you get the most truthful and most accurate answer. And suddenly I started improving everything. Everything started changing. They gave me the manual on how I'm supposed to start a YouTube channel. They told me how to raise my son. They told me everything.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a big thing. And that was the moment when I started uploading. I just wanted to share these revelations with my family and friends. And that's why I started the YouTube channel. Suddenly started getting millions of views, and I was like, oh, I'm onto something big here. And yeah, that's what I've been doing ever since.
So this then, I mean, you were still in the corporate role at the time, and then after experiencing psychedelics, you kind of opened your eyes to what you should be doing. And then did you kind of transition away? Did you leave overnight, or was there a plan to create your own thing? And then the second part of that, why 434? How did that come about, and why the numbers 434, and what's the significance there?
Okay, so the first part of your question, yes, it was once the channel started getting so many views, I started getting people asking me to create to open donation platforms like Patreon, Subscribestar, and PayPal. They suggested that this is how I should start making money, because they wanted to give me money because they were so grateful for the messages. And I thought, okay, let's do this. And once I did it, it turned out that people are incredibly generous, and they were so generous that suddenly I had second income. And I started getting so much money that I could afford to think about quitting my job. And I was hesitant. I mean, you can imagine, right in the middle of raising your young family, your son, being in the middle of a career, and then you're thinking, you know what, I'm just going to take mushrooms for a living. I'm going to talk to aliens and people are going to pay me money. I mean, imagine that business plan, going to your wife and telling her that.
Take that to the bank.
Yeah, exactly. But I went to my wife and she's like, you know what? I'm tired of you working for 16 hours a day. Do that. Why not? Give it a shot. It was a very smart decision, amazing decision, because we can, we can stay together. We don't have to split time on work.
And was your wife working at the time or not?
At that time, she was an interior designer for a big company, and we thought it's not working out. It's just not. Nobody's happy. Nobody's healthy in that that type of arrangement. So she said, just stay at home and let's see what happens. And yeah, I've concentrated on 434, and it's been the smartest decision ever.
And also with her now, I mean, does she get involved in what you do?
No, unfortunately not. We had a plan where she was supposed to help me, but she's so busy with our life that she's taking care of the house and the baby, and I'm not really involved that much in this this thing, like taking care of everything, meals and getting our son to school. I'm not a part of that. She's doing that. I'm just there to spend time with them. I'm the family police when my son is misbehaving. That's why typical father, like traditional father, being a parent that is involved by creating boundaries, right? But she's taking care of the whole structure. She's taking him to guitar lessons, that kind of stuff. She's doing that.
You mentioned you play instruments. Are you going to play anything for us?
No, that wasn't part of the plan. So I couldn't. But yeah, but I'm teaching him now. So that's.
But you sing as well?
No, I never really tried. Actually, I could try it one day, but I never had a chance to do that. So to answer the second part of your question, you were asking about 434.
Yeah.
So in 97, I'm mixing up the centuries, but millennia actually. Yeah, in '97, I smoked weed for the first time, and that was the first psychedelic experience I had, because suddenly I started getting contacted by some weird alien forms, and I didn't know what to do with it back then. I didn't understand it.
So let me just pause you there. So when you said you got contacted, in which sort of form? I mean, in a dream or physically, or?
No, the moment you close your eyes, you see the shape, you see the form, and they talk to you telepathically. That's how it works. So you do this in meditation, through higher states of consciousness, and psychedelics is a part of that. So some people do it in dreams, astral projection, but I have access to it through psychedelics. It turns out that weed, marijuana, can have a psychedelic effect on you as well. So
but it's
when
not,
I spoke,
it doesn't work on everyone.
no, of course not. It's the same as mushrooms. Mushrooms don't give access to the outer dimensions to everyone either. So it takes some people some qualities to actually have that access. That's how it was explained to me. But when I had that experience, I didn't really pay attention to it. It's just that my friends who were around me, I started telling them what I see and what they're telling me, and they were like, "Dude, this is crazy. This is insane. What's happening to you?" And yeah, I tried not to do this again, because we were scared of it. Like, we were thinking we were being possessed or something, and we didn't like it.
Your friend did it also.
No. It was that I was sitting in the middle of the room. I smoked for the first time. I went to another dimension suddenly, the same thing as with mushrooms now. And then these entities started talking to me. And as they were talking to me, I was telling my friends who were sitting around me, I was telling them, this is what I'm getting messages about. And they were like, whoa, dude, this is creepy. Stop it. They really didn't like it. But after that, I started seeing number 434. It was actually when I had the music studio, we created a track, a techno track called 434. And from that moment on, I started seeing it everywhere. And it wasn't a big thing at the beginning, but then I started taking pictures, with the development of mobile phones. In the late 90s, we started having phones that at the beginning of 2000s, we had the ability to start taking pictures. And I started doing that. Started reporting all those synchronicities. And they were very strange. They were not normal synchronicities. And people around me started seeing that too. And they said, this is weird. Like, this is getting too intense for this to be a normal synchronicity. And it continued to it took me to a place where I was actually guided by this synchronicity. Every time it would appear somewhere in my life, that's where I was supposed to go. And I didn't know what to do with it until I took mushrooms. And these entities told me, yes, we've been giving you these synchronicities all this time. For you, it's a wake-up call. You're supposed to realize that something significant is happening. And they explained it to me that 434 stands for three words that have that shows the number of letters in these words, and it's love, joy, and hope. 4 letters, 3 letters, and 4 letters again. And they said, this is the explanation, but also we give you an equation. We're going to give you 3 geometric figures with 4 sides, 3 sides, and 4 sides, which is square, triangle, and square. And they said this whole thing represents the values of love, joy, and hope. And the surface of these geometric figures is supposed to tell you how much attention you're supposed to pay them in your life, with love and hope being the foundations and joy in the middle being the result of it. So half of it, right? It's quite complex, but I made a video explaining the whole thing. I also have a chapter in the book that explains it.
I've listened to that. I love it. And
yeah.
Which kind of leads me, if I just pause you there one second, after listening to that, it also, I was looking for my number, because I was looking for a number as well. And I thought, there's got to be 434 for me. So I was looking everywhere for 434, never found it. But then that's when I had the dream. And it said, just digressing a bit here, it said, in my dream, it's a very vivid dream, and I kept seeing numbers, and I kept seeing a 15151515, and I thought, well, no, there's got to be 3 digits, 3 numbers. It can't just be 15. And I said, what's the other one? Then something woke me up, and then I tried to get back into the dream. I got back into the dream, and then it all started again, 1515. And I said, no, there's another number. And they said, don't worry, you'll know it by the end. I said, I want to know it now. And anyway, a long dream later, then it presented me with a number. It bombarded me with 555555555. And then I said, well, I'm still confused. Is it 155? Is it 515? And it wasn't till the very end that it said it's 515. And then
515, not 151, right?
no, 515. Then when I woke up, I thought, kind of, what's the significance of that? So I did a Google search on significant numbers and 515, and it told me it's my angel number and whatever. And then for the next week, everywhere I saw 515. I went to the next day to the local bakery lady. I call her bakery lady with the kids, the baker shop, and their delivery van number plate was 515. Then I saw it everywhere. But anyway, just going back to your story, so a lot of what you said stimulated what I saw, and I was trying to look for the same thing you were looking for, but I was looking for your numbers, not my numbers.
No, you're not supposed to do that, because in physical sense, in a earthly sense, these numbers are just an expression of the algorithm that runs in the background, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is just something that is beyond the understanding of probability. In mathematics, there's some kind of a theory that if it goes beyond 1 in 45 million, it becomes impossible. So if there is an occurrence of a synchronicity that is so frequent that the probability of its occurrence goes beyond 1 in 45 million, that means it's not coincidental, because it's impossible. So that immediately says that it's by design. And once you know that synchronicity, a given synchronicity appearance is by design, that means something's controlling it. And it means that it's basically an expression of the algorithm that runs this reality. It's too complex that we shouldn't go into it. It's not really important. But what I was told is that all the numbers come from the same place. They come from from the creator. They basically come from the algorithm, and you're supposed to pay attention to them. You're supposed to be using these numbers as an alarm clock, as a wake-up call. And it's only you who will know the meaning of it. You will understand what they mean when they show up, because then you will know the moment in which they show up, because that will mean something to you subjectively.
So tell us a bit more, because you started seeing these numbers. Were you seeing the numbers before but took no notice of them, or did you start seeing them after you realized about 434?
No, they were just showing up, and I'm like, wait, this number is everywhere. It's not something that I was paying attention to. It's just that we recorded our track at 34 minutes after 4 a.m. And I've had this file on my drive for a long time. But then when it started appearing around me, I'm like, oh, that's the same number as the time we recorded that track. And I'm like, what is this? And it started showing up everywhere. I would park at a parking space. It was 434. I would go to a friend's house. The house number was 434. And it was everywhere. Like I would get on an elevator in Paris, and then it's 434. And then I get out, and there's a phone number on the wall that starts with 434. It just started getting crazy at some point. And even my wife, she was looking at it. She was like, this is not normal. Like, this is not something that's supposed to happen, because she was witnessing that too. And I started collecting all these pictures, and I made 4 videos on them. It's like an hour and a half now describing this, and I use these pictures. Recently, I found something very strange, even with the place that I live in. There's so many connections. I mean, these videos explain it, so whoever's interested, go back to them and watch them, and it should tell you how synchronicity works. But its meaning is that you're supposed to pay attention, because they're helping you. They're here to help you. These numbers are signals. It's like messaging from the other side.
Absolutely. Yeah, I find that as well with the numbers I saw. And I mean, you can choose to ignore it and not take any notice, but they're there for a purpose. And you need to find out what the purpose is, which is not necessarily the easiest thing to do either.
No, it's not. Well, you can look at what happened to hundreds of thousands of people's lives, because that's how many, these 434 videos had millions of views, and many people who watched them, many ignored them, but majority of people who keep watching them, they're always saying that they've changed their lives. And it's only because I kept paying attention to this synchronicity.
Okay, so let's talk about a bit more about what you're doing on a day-to-day basis then, and then I want to open it up to let kind of Bojan and Laszlo also ask questions, because I guess you might have some.
Yeah, just to let you know that I don't really have that much time. So yeah, I'm gonna tell you. So my day is based mainly around editing videos, writing and editing videos, because that's the main thing. That these messages are really important. So that's what I'm doing all the time. Simultaneously, I'm finishing the book, which I've been finishing for 2 years. It cannot stop growing. It's just always, I'm adding new stuff to it. There's just so much in it. And I'm also working on maintaining the platform. It actually became like a small medium, like it's just a small broadcasting company that I'm just sending these messages on all platforms. And it was very busy, but now with Facebook being gone, it's a little bit less hectic. But that's basically what I'm doing all day long, just talking to people, because I'm also doing consultations now. So I'm talking to people and I'm writing videos. That's all I'm doing at the moment.
And it's paying an income, I guess.
Yes, because I have supporters on Patreon and Subscribestar, and also people support my work every time in every video. That's why I mention it, because if you don't ask, you don't get it. And people are very generous. People are very yeah, once you start asking people, you'll be surprised how many people are grateful for what you do, and they're willing to reward you for that. And yeah, it's been great so far. It's been really helpful. And you know these videos are also monetized, and they were monetized on Facebook. That's one of the reasons why it became a bit more problematic for me now, because a big chunk of my income disappeared because of Facebook. So I need to substitute it somehow.
So I just want kind of get the audience just to ask you any questions, or if you've got any for them. But what would you, I mean, knowing what you know now and what you've gone through yourself personally, and the depression and the changes and the kind of your background, what advice would you give to anybody?
To everyone, I want you guys to open your eyes, because those of you who think that they're awake or that they're on the path of discovery, oh, trust me, you're you really you really need to open your eyes wider, because I thought I was there, and this year just hit me on the head saying, oh, you know nothing, and it just showed me how much more there is to learn. And the information is everywhere. You just need to look for it. You need to pay attention to what's happening around you. You need to try to understand as much as possible. You need to pay attention to what life is trying to tell you, because life itself is interacting with you. You picked that path and you're on it now. And it's not only the structure around you is communicating with you, it's giving you clues, it's leading you to certain places, certain events, but also you have your guide, you have your personal guide who's helping you, you don't know when, and you have the energy, the God, creator, whatever you want to call it. It's still in charge of all of your reality, and you yourself, you're a part of it. So there's so much we don't understand that you need to pay attention to. And first of all would be to understand that your life is basically you interacting with yourself. Nothing else matters. It's just you in the process of learning about yourself and interacting with yourself. These emotions you feel, whether it's despair, joy, love and hope, or just depression, these are your subjective emotions that are only familiar to you. It's only you know them. Nobody else has access to them. You're going through this life by yourself. You have people around you, but it's a personal journey. It's just you interacting with yourself. And you need to understand that everything is planned. You chose these events, and you're here to learn about all of this. So I would say learn as much as you can. Try to understand the values of love, joy, and hope in life. Try to understand why you're here. And I'm going to help everyone with a video soon, because I recently discovered an equation, a formula to finding out about your purpose here. You can actually do it. You can map your life and you can actually get to the bottom of why you're here. And once you do this, it will be very easy. Life will become a very interesting, adventurous journey. But don't ignore things that are happening, especially the metaphysical ones, because they're very important. And you're here for a reason, and you need to know what the reason is.
questions, anyone? Oh, yeah.
You won't be able to stop me, but anyway.
There is no devil. Don't worry, devil doesn't exist.
So there are a lot of similarities, what you said in your life journey. So likewise, I was born in the communist country, similar feelings, poverty as well. And do you think the earth is flat?
Right. How does it actually connect to what you said? Yes, yeah. It's a crazy thing to believe we live on a globe. It's absolutely insane.
This was a tricky question. I have a friend who is running several businesses and it's really living well, etc. So a few years ago we met and he says, Earth is flat. So I look at him a bit strange, and so then he says, the Earth is managed by aliens. We're just like a fish in an aquarium or animals in a cage or something. So, and he started convincing me. So I said, okay, so imagine that I believe you, or imagine that I don't believe you. Tell me, okay, I watched some movies proving that it's flat really, and it's all animation when we fly with the planes.
Truman Show.
But then I told him, I'm not, let's say I believe you or not believe it doesn't matter, but imagine that I jump into your shoes, how this belief on going will change my life. This was my question. Because many people have many beliefs, many ways they want to or find the, let's say, reason why you're on the earth and the purpose of living, etc. So my question is more like what you're doing. I quickly checked your YouTube channels and about you. What you're actually teaching the people around. So what is your message to them? This is what I was not maybe quite.
So to understand, if you want to understand why you're here, first you need to ask 3 questions. Number 1 is why you're here, so your purpose. Number 2 is where you are, about your environment and the truth about your environment. And the last one is who you actually are. Because if you think you're human, you're mistaken. You're not a human. That's just a shell. That's just a vessel that you use to perform your tasks, being that metaphysical thing. But you need to understand that the answer to one of these questions, where you are, is very important because it actually allows you to answer the 2 other questions. And once you realize where you are, you will start to see that your environment is a lie. Everything you know about your environment is somebody else's theory that you were forced to subscribe to through the educational system and mainstream media. They basically told you what you're supposed to believe and you just accepted it. The truth is that almost nothing you know is true. Everything is a lie, everything's made up, and the globe theory is a part of it. I don't think we're some animals here. No, it's just a plane on which everything's happening. It's a training simulation ground where you're supposed to you're supposed to learn your lessons. And there are people who come here to teach you them. It's not really that important whether it's a globe or a flat. That doesn't really matter. The main thing is that you need to wake up and understand that the path to self-discovery is partially through rejection of the establishment truths, because they're telling you what you're supposed to believe, and it's because they don't want you to get to the bottom of it. They don't want you to know who you are and why you're here. It's a problem for them. They're actually the polarity that was introduced to this reality so that you can train yourself in knowing who you're not. That's very important, also knowing who you're not. So I wouldn't really pay that much attention to whether it's flat or not. It doesn't really change much in your life, but it's important to understand that there is more to life than just watching TV and believing in what they're telling you, because they're telling you lies. They want you to be asleep, and you need to wake up. You need to wake up, or otherwise you're just going to miss the chance of self-development. There is no self-development without understanding your environment.
Laszlo, do you have any questions?
Oh, not really. Just a quick one off the record. So where are you from? Which country?
Oh, we've covered that, and it's Eastern
Stop the
Europe.
recording, James.
James, this is the first time you have 3 Eastern Europeans on your call.
Oh, that's cool.
And also something else about the interesting languages you mentioned. Actually, the Hungarian language is the most interesting I started learning in my life. So it's very unique. It's alien language, in fact. Sorry, Laszlo, but no, it's very interesting as a language, totally unique. And it's also, I think, much easier to learn because every word is unique. You can't miss it. Once you learn it correctly, it's...
Yeah, I mean, it's very easy. Even, small children can learn it, so it shouldn't be that difficult.
It's amazing. In Hungary, you see, like, they speak.
All right, guys, I need to leave in 1 minute, so I'm not sure if anything else.
Yeah, so basically we're just going to kind of wrap up now. So Peter, I mean, what I've read and followed you for the last year or so, I absolutely love. It resonates 100% with me. I've learned a lot from you. It also connects with other things that I'm doing, and it makes more sense because it's a reassurance, whatever you're saying. And I'm hearing from other people, kind of the connections all go back to the same source. So yeah, I love it. So, I mean, for me, I mean, keep up the excellent work. And I definitely want to know more about your work and particularly what's coming next.
Thank you. Well, yeah, definitely. What you've seen so far is just an introduction, because it seems like we're now getting to the important part, to the actual truth. That's how I feel. But yeah, let's see where it takes us, because I'm surprised myself about the things that I'm discovering. And it's my personal journey of discovery and self-development, and you're all a part of it, because I'm taking you all with me on it. Whatever I discover, I tell you about it. So
you mentioned that you talk to different entities. So is it different ones all the time, or is it the same ones? And do you have names for them?
No, they're different ones. They're always different. Occasionally you'll get the same one returning during one trip, or sometimes there's one of them that comes back, and it's the bee queen. That's the one that I've had contact with for a long time, and she comes back all the time. There's one entity that comes back. Occasionally other ones will come back too, but no, they're usually different. And they I don't understand their appearance. I don't know what it is, because it's very strange. It's
Do you ask where they're from as well?
Not really, no. I never really asked them, I think. I was always interested in knowing what these dimensions are, because they took me to my dimension, the dimension of my origin, but I never really had a chance to ask them about their origin. They told me once that they're a part of the creator, they're part of the energy, and they said that we take a part of you, your soul, and we create our image for you so that we can communicate with you. But no, I never asked that question.
But you see them in a physical or hologram form or something?
So the way it works is that I do closed eye visual meditation when I take psychedelics, and they just appear like anything in your mind. It's just that it's an external projection. It's not yours. You know it. It's not your brain. In the same way as you know that the telepathic communication happening is not really a part of your own inner voice. It's just from outside. But having said that, once when I took a huge amount of mushrooms, I actually had them physically in front of me. Once that was very, very disturbing, and I didn't like that. I prefer them to be in my head.
And another question, what are these mushrooms? Mushrooms like mushrooms, or?
No, they called magic mushrooms. They called 𝗙𝗘𝗔𝗧𝗪 mushrooms, or they called liberty caps. So in Europe, they grow in meadows around fall time, so autumn, fall. But you can grow them yourself in a jar. They're called 𝗙𝗘𝗔𝗪𝗏 mushrooms. Yeah.
You're going to grow some there, boy.
Maybe to run a business out of it, I never know.
It's very easy. It's a very easy process.
But I mean, you can have kind of micro version to start with,
yeah,
rather than go like heavy duty and blow your mind.
Exactly. Yeah, but you can you can watch these videos. I made more than 150 videos now, and some of them describe exactly what mushrooms, how they grow, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm going to grow some in the garden. But anyway, so Peter, any final words or anything just before we wrap this up?
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to connect with you guys. If anyone wants any additional information, go to 𝗙𝗢𝗏𝗏.com. So it's 𝗙𝗢𝗏𝗏.
Yeah, it's on your on LinkedIn profile. I send you
Exactly. So I'm on all social media at the moment. I'm building the additional social media channels, but YouTube is the biggest. So is Telegram, is Instagram. It's everywhere. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, get in touch with me. There's contact details under every video on all social media, and yeah, I hope I can help you.
Excellent. So Peter, I will add you to the group that we're in, so you can chat with previous guests. Also, fantastic. I'll give you a link so you can see who the previous guests were if you're interested in following them. I'm sure they'll be interested in learning about you. So when the recording is ready, I just wrap it up a little bit, and then I post it in the group, and then I give you the links to that as well, so you'll have all of that, and you can do what you want with it. You can chop bits out and personalize it how you wish.
Yeah. Great, of course. Thank you very much for this.
Yeah, so it's been an absolute pleasure. I mean, I could talk to hours or 4 hours with you, and I've got lots of other questions that I'd like to ask, but I mean, you have been a fantastic guest, and I love what you do, and I'm sure many others will. So thank you once again, and yeah, have a
pleasure is all mine. Thank you very much, guys.
Bye.
Thank you, and I wish you a nice weekend too.